hey, okay, what if we did set the rules for Congress rather than have them set the rules for themselves? Can we do that? I mean, I don't know if the American people have the will or the way anymore. But after what we've been through, I would think we would all realize that this is our last chance to save our country. Well, at least get a majority of us who love our country and ideals enough to work to save it. And let's get these groups to join us by focusing on our common interests rather than those hot button issues that the parties wanted to divide us. Because pretty soon, there's not going to be anything left for our future. Whether we agree or not, its time has come where we finally elect members of Congress who will begin to be more concerned with our welfare than with their own. And we can start with the idea about doing away with lobbyists. That's a good place to start. That'll give those who say they represent us a simple choice as to who they really want to represent. So, first thing, let's have them introduce the lobbying bill and demand a quick vote. Oh, and for those that look at us like we're kind of stupid and say that we don't understand the way things work in Congress, we tell them what we do. And that's why we want them to pass the bill or resign from office and do it publicly. Let's not forget that they're traitors to us if they don't. They're traitors to our country. Just keep the image in your head of them meeting behind closed doors, telling each other how stupid we are. And if they hang in there together, we'll back down. Just like we always do. Okay, then I think we need to demand that they immediately pass a bill changing their rules to exactly what we want them to be, or a constitutional convention would be called by the states to do it for them, if they can't do it. But we have to be committed, and we have to be serious and willing to have the courage of the revolutionists that began this country. Of course, as bad as things are, we still have a lot more to work with than they did. But they had courage. And then we have to be willing to demand that, to do what it takes to get those resignations of those who play us as fools. I mean, we have to ask for that. We have to get rid of these people. So prior to their being elected to office, we'll require them to commit to vote for this bill in writing before any other action can be considered on the first day that Congress convenes. Now, they'll argue and squirm and squeal that they need a lengthy debate to discuss all the ramifications of the bill, and it would take years, but we could just point to the lack of debate on those bills of heroic proportions over Obamacare or the Telecommunications Act to kill that argument. And while this proposed bill may not be as sizable in content as much of the legislation considered in Congress, its simplicity and impact will do nothing less than save our country from continued decline. So we start by having this bill propose term limits on members of Congress, limiting their service to 12 years whether they get elected to the Senate or House of Representatives or a combination of the two. You know, I used to be opposed to term limits because I thought it would give too much power to bureaucrats. But the only way for bureaucrats to have too much power is when Congress doesn't know what's going on anyway. So now it's time for us to clean house. And this bill needs to cancel tenure and pensions to members of Congress and their staffs and provide all monies in the Congressional Retirement Fund be transferred to the Social Security Administration. So there'll be some money in Social Security for their retirement as well as ours. They'll collect a salary when in office and receive no pay when they're out of office. I also think it should create a pay rate limit for members of Congress and their staffs at 300% of the average wage of American citizens as established by the United States Census Bureau. Now that's about $120,000 a year, which is over 3 times what the average Joe makes, not the $175,000 that they just raised themselves to. And if they can get our average salary to go up, they deserve a raise. If it's not enough money for them, they can quit and come back and get a job like the rest of us. Oh, and if you really want to take a sexist-sounding, politically incorrect position that could address another injustice, let's pay women members of Congress less than what their male counterparts get, matching the national pay inequality between men and women, since there's no such thing in Congress. Maybe if there was, those elected women would fight a lot harder to make sure those average Janes out there had a better opportunity to be on par with their male counterparts. Anyway, the daily recognition and publicity should bring about a positive change. But that's just another issue that gets a lot of talk but no action. And then we need to remove any access to benefits such as free health care for members of Congress that are not given to citizens of the United States, and require members of Congress to equally abide in all laws they impose on the citizens they represent. Also, when we look at all the problems we've had because of nepotism, we need to prohibit immediate members of the families of those elected or appointed from working in administrations, in Congress, and the courts. Of course, everyone will squeal that it's unconstitutional or whatever to prohibit a family member from pursuing their career path just because a close relative has been elected or appointed. But if that's such a concern, then don't run or get appointed. We've had too much corruption because of nepotism already. And if a Supreme Court justice whose impartial rulings present the absolute determination of rule of law needs to have a wife who has a job involved in political decision, then he needs to resign. You would think it's honor enough to be appointed for life to such a position that maybe some sacrifice should be expected. Who do these people think they are? If they need the extra cash, maybe this justice's wife could work at Wendy's, so at least one member of the court would know what it's like to be an average citizen trying to compete against those powerful corporations while raising a family. Who knows, maybe he would have voted against those super PACs. Oh, before we get away from those gods in black robes, how come they serve for life? Is it to take the politics out of the court? Come on. Their appointment is as political, if not more so, than anyone running for office. Let's have them with a 12-year term limit as well. Listen, we've lost control, and we're going to be better off starting over with all new people. Do you really think we'd be any worse off than we are now? And finally, all contracts with past and current congressmen are void, effective January 1st, 2016. The American people didn't make these contracts with congressmen. Congressmen made these contracts for themselves. Now, the purpose of passing this bill is to give members of Congress the choice between protecting the rights and economic survival of their constituents or providing for their own benefits and what their friends and colleagues have voted for themselves. When Congress was established, serving as a member was an honor, not a career. The Founding Fathers envisioned citizen legislators serving their terms and then going home and back to work. We need these folks to do that again and become the public servants they were intended, rather than us becoming the servants of government. If we don't take the initiative and demand that these changes occur now, the corruption of our government will continue, the strength of our country will diminish, and our voices still won't be heard. We deserve a better government and a more hopeful future. And don't worry about losing too many members of Congress that think just like you do. If they think like you do, they'll agree to everything we're saying. Besides, we know a lot of these candidates will say and do whatever they can to just get the votes they need to get elected. And as both sides of issues lie to get votes, especially when it comes to those hot-button issues in their party's primaries, do you notice how they all mention at the end of whatever they're running for, wanting to serve to give something back to their country? That's why we're running for office. Yeah, instead of giving it back to their country, they took whatever they needed to get rich. The country be damned. And if you don't think that's true, tell me how they let us get in this mess. That's why we need to start over. Now, we're going to give them the opportunity to give back. We're going to let them have that opportunity by doing it our way. Now, I know it's a lot to ask and expect, but one other thing. If you're going to risk American lives in war, we need to be like the Brits who send their princes to fight in their wars, Prince Andrew and Prince William. Someone with a good English accent giving us a good example for a change. Or Joe Biden and John McCain, whose sons have volunteered. But let's make sure Congress votes on it and that they have a stake in it. If the President and Congress are going to send troops to risk life and limb, let's have the confidence in their decision to at least see that their sons and daughters, husbands and wives, are part of that risk. Also, if we send troops and personnel to foreign countries to deal with diseases like Ebola, there needs to be that same commitment. Being elected to these highfalutin positions doesn't just give you and your families the benefits of all the perks of office that we average Joes see on TV, but it gives you and your families the responsibility to also lead by making the sacrifices and taking the risks you demand of your followers. Sometimes just planting a garden at the White House isn't enough to inspire a country that your family has a stake in its future. You see, we'll follow leaders who will build on the past to protect our future. It's that pride in those great past accomplishments that gave us the will to do whatever is necessary to keep our country safe and strong. And I think it's about time that we stick our heads outside that pot we've confined ourselves, to make sure that these folks we put in charge of our lives aren't careless enough to destroy our security that's taken a century to build up. You know, we've had 2 presidents declare mission accomplished as our troops were still being attacked. Bush on an aircraft carrier and Obama at a Marine base. And now we have talk of cutting our military? It's just that sort of premature and careless thinking that has brought us where we are today and could just allow countries like China and Russia to take over and dare a bunch of cowardly terrorists to expand, challenging our country. I don't know about you, but to me there's too much uncertainty to be thinking about cutting the military of all things. And again, not knowing where they're taking us is the best way to get somewhere we've never been, especially in times that are as dangerous as any in our history. When a decision like that is made, you can't just go back and change it. Look at what happened to the Iraq we left. You know, if they're not thinking about our future, then we better, right now, before they also take away our past. It's one thing to get rid of the waste and corruption. It's another thing to change the destiny of our ideals. Remember all those lives lost for the causes of our freedom and liberty? As a vet, I can tell you the best way to honor our vets is to show them that their sacrifices and those who were left behind on the battlefield have been worth it. For those who return, we shouldn't be cutting a military budget when there's such a person as a homeless vet or an unserved, wounded warrior. And they're out there, even with the budget we have right now. Keep in mind that our future security is in the hands of the vets to come. So what it comes down to when we think about this is that sometimes it seems like there are only 2 ways to do things: right or again. And like my dad used to tell me, don't just fix something, make it better. That way you're not spending all that time, effort, and money just getting back to where you started. We need to change the way our country is being run, not just the people running it. And he also said that when something bad happens, don't dwell on it. It's like water under the bridge. It's gone and you'll never get it back. Focus on the water before it gets to the bridge so you can change its course. Or at this point in our politics, maybe we need to dam it up and take control. Whatever we do, its time has come. And the more we think about the past, the more elusive and difficult the future becomes. Don't wait. We can't wait. This revolution started with this curtain call. This is it. There's not a moment to lose. The contracts with the American people will be available in the lobby for you to take back to your districts to present to candidates in front of the media to find out if they are on our side of making our country great again or just in this game to get rich for themselves. Those that refuse to sign should be asked publicly to resign their position as candidates or office holders. This will not be allowed to be an exercise in futility. This will be our last chance to take back our lives and hope for our future. Those that stand in our way have sold out our country and played us for fools. We need to take it back now. May God bless us in our efforts, and may God save the United States of America.